Hey everybody and welcome to another episode of the Gutenberg Live Show. I'm Joe Casabona, and as always, I'm with my co-host, Zach Gordon. Zach, how's it going, man?
Howdy, y'all. Going well, man. It's good to be back. We missed a week there, but Gutenberg kept going, so we're back again. Good to be with you.
Yeah,
Howdy, everyone.
Gutenberg kept going. There's like a lot of stuff to talk about too. I'm gonna move my mic back a little bit because I think I just clipped hard in that intro. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. But first I want to talk about the wardrobe for today's show because I noticed that you're wearing your Deeply gear, which can be bought somewhere, right? That could be bought somewhere.
Deeplybrand.com.
Boom,
Soon to be on
Deeply.
JavaScript for WP. I'm going to open up the shop there and link it all up too.
Nice, very nice. I am rocking my brand new branded t-shirt. I've branded myself. Get out there and build something. That's available at shop.casabona.org. So we're just rocking our own clothes. And I bring that up because somebody on Twitter recently told me that it was tacky for me to wear my own like catchphrase on a t-shirt.
Oops.
Whoopsie, right? And I'm like, I don't know who you are, and that opinion doesn't really matter to me. I love this shirt. It's very comfortable, and I love the design. The designer did a great job, so I'm going to wear it. I didn't design this myself, you know? It's not like, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I just got a little bit distracted because we're both rocking our own clothes, but really, we should be talking about all of the goings-ons that have been happening. So, like, if we look at the show notes here, first of all, I should tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Give.
Heck yeah.
And you can check them out over at givewp.com. And we're going to talk about them a little bit later in the show. But I just want to put that out there. They've been like tweeting this show, like they've been promoting it really hardcore, and so it's been really good. It's been really nice to partner with them on this project. So we're going to talk about Give a little bit later in the show, but it is brought to you by them. So the other big update, and maybe part of the reason, right, that Zach and I have been a little bit heads down, is we have not one, but at least two course updates. So our theming course is now complete. All of the modules are there, and you can buy it and take it on either one of our websites. So if you go to gutenberg.courses/theming, you can, it's actually like spelled theming, THEMING. You can go ahead and take that course. I know, Zach, I'm really excited that the course is launched. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, we were sneak peeking it for a while, and then we had a bit of it released, and we finally got the whole thing now. And I'm really excited. I got to bring in some of the technical stuff I wanted to talk about. You got to get into a lot of the theming stuff that's your wheelhouse, how to customize it, how to make Gutenberg look all these different ways. And overall, like, it should work out of the box with any theme. But I'm really happy about this course and trying to set a friendly price for everyone. To go and pick it up so that you're not stuck and you still got time. So yeah, that was really fun to do. And our first course together.
Yeah, absolutely. Holler. Yeah, I really liked it too. I actually learned a lot in the process of doing this because, you think, oh, well, you could probably just like find the class and if you know the naming convention, just like style it a certain way. But certain blocks, like the most surprising difficulty to me was the quote blocks. And it's because the quote blocks can take on the align wide and align full classes. And so if you're using those, they can get real wide. And so you need to think about that, right? Because if you're using align wide, you're going to have like an edge if you follow all of the previous instructions in the course. You're going to end up with like an edge to edge block quote, and that doesn't look good. So like that was actually the most surprising to me. And then columns kind of serve their own I don't want to say headache, but there's some considerations there. Though I was expecting that. I was not expecting the block quotes.
It's funny because just because it can go full wide, should it, and how should that look different? And a lot of things to think about. And something we didn't get in there, maybe in an update. I know at some point I'm doing an advanced Gutenberg course too, getting into the different styles, because you could also create that and have that as an option too, in addition to the styles API, something a little bit more complicated. But yeah, so
Absolutely. There's definitely a few things I wanna think about as far as improving the course, but I think we've got something really rock solid on the first go. I know that it's kind of been in the hopper for a little while. Um and but I think I'm very happy with the work that we did here. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. Um, I think you'll learn a lot, and if you do any kind of theming stuff, I think it'll be really, really helpful. So, plus, all of the code is available to anybody who takes the course. So, uh, even if you just want to get the course, maybe take some of the videos, but dig into the code lesson by lesson, it's there for you. Uh, so that's the Gutenberg theming course. Just a week prior to completion of the Gutenberg theming course, I also released an update to my introduction to Gutenberg course. So, among other things, I made the first lesson, the first couple of videos, free for you to look at. But I've also updated the interface, or I've updated the videos to use the latest version of the interface. Um, maybe not since 3.7. Things are still changing really fast. But at least something very close, like not confusingly different. And then there are two new big sections to the course, and that is we build a site completely from scratch using atomic blocks, my favorite Gutenberg friendly theme, uh, and um, and Gutenberg. So we build a complete site using Gutenberg. It is a website for the fictional architecture firm Mosbius Designs. If you are a How I Met Your Mother fan. And then the other section is totally geared towards freelancers. Well, not necessarily just freelancers, but for those of you who are in the position of having to upgrade current WordPress websites to Gutenberg, maybe how to approach the topic with your clients or your content editors, um, and how to kind of broach that change. There's a whole new section for you on that as well. So you can check that out as well over at, I think it's gutenberg.courses /introduction. And so you can pick that course up as well. It's newly minted. And already I'm going to be adding a new section to it on the advanced custom field stuff when I dig into that. So buy it now at the current price and you get lifetime updates.
And that's a big update. You'd wanted to do that for a while, and both of us are committed to updating all of our stuff. So very cool, man. Congrats on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much. Yeah, I'm that's been hanging over me for a little bit, so I'm glad I was able to push that out. What else is going on with you, Zach? Any other updates you want to mention or anything like that?
I wish I could talk about my next Gutenberg course, which is going to be advanced Gutenberg theme development and get into data store and all that. But I am starting a boot camp next week with a group of folks, and we're going to go through all vanilla JavaScript, React, all the Gutenberg stuff, the WordPress REST API, and see how much you could fit into a brain in 12 weeks of JavaScript for WordPress. And then towards the end of the year, I'll be back on this advanced stuff. I'm getting a lot of questions in the forums. People are building out their stuff and they want to know, hey, how do I get access to this? Or how do I get access to that? And a lot of the answers are the data API. I'm also getting some questions, PHP on the back end, someone wanting to figure out, hey, I want to know what blocks are in a certain page. And if that block exists, I want to do something else. So these are really good questions. I hope to be able to tackle more of them, but it definitely shows that folks are digging in. So again, if you haven't, and you haven't started to grasp with some of these things, keep going with it.
That is fantastic. It just got some feedback in the chat room that people could not see me while I was talking. I think that's fixed now. I had accidentally clicked on Zach's face, so you got to see him the whole time I was talking. That's fine though.
No. Look at that.
Probably better. But that's really cool. I'm very excited to hear how that goes, Zach. I know I'm always interested in the boot camp type stuff. It's something that I try to toy around with, but it sounds like you've got a really good structure. So I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, as am I, and howdy to anybody who's joining in.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are our updates. Let's talk about the latest and greatest in Gutenberg. Uh,
Yes.
3.7 came out last week. 3.7, which I think the icon, it looks like a moped.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're moving.
yeah, they're zooming along here. So there's a lot of different updates here. I know that they've said a couple times they're feature complete, but it just doesn't seem to be that way. They have a new spotlight mode that focuses on a single block at a time, and an updated unified toolbar design. So these two new features combined, I think, make it easy for you to focus on the writing aspect. I know in the community there's been a lot of feedback about WordPress is supposed to be for writing. Um, and like the content editor is supposed to be for writing, and Gutenberg gets away from that a little bit. Well, the Gutenberg development team, as always, responded quickly and swiftly with these two new modes to help you focus on just writing. So that's what I'm most excited about in the new update. Perhaps it's something worth adding a new module for to point that out, or maybe I'll just make it a YouTube video. Um, but what about you, Zach? I see there's a lot of different development type stuff here.
Yeah, honestly, like I mean, we'll go through and list out some of the little ones and do the little read off, but there wasn't too much that really hit me. You kind of talked about the cool UI stuff. I just love that we're seeing more design iterations now, right? That's what a lot of this is. Um, I like that they're tackling image floats and dealing with that. That was one of the small updates that they did, but it has still felt clunky to me trying to force inline images and floated images a little bit. So seeing work around that, continuing to just see refined stuff. Yeah, I'm still finding it a little hard sometimes to select things and multiple things. Like that's can be a little tricky and unintuitive. I was able to attend a local meetup here in the DC area, and a lot of folks who were brand new to WordPress and meetups and coming out and playing around with it and listening to their feedback back and forth. So that was interesting. I think a lot of these are just smaller design things like that. Post visibility settings, doing some work around that. Oh, I think the feature I was most excited about, because we both do a lot of video stuff, is you can now put up like a cover image, or they call it something different for a poster image for a video. So if you put a video in, you could actually have a certain image right there looking nice. And I think that that's great. Especially,
That's yeah,
yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah,
like
because I
that.
mean, otherwise, then what you have to do is either make sure like the correctly selected frame in the video is the one you want to focus in on, or the first frame of the video, or you need to set it separately on whatever video host you choose, right? But the ones I use give you the opportunity to do that. So it's cool. I can just upload a video and then set the poster image right in WordPress if I want.
Yep. Yep.
Nice. Nice. Very nice. Um, yeah, and I like what you said about the floats too, and I agree with everything you said. Even like recently, I was trying to do something with Gutenberg, and just the selecting or moving the cursor in just the right way to get the block you want is still a little tough. In some cases, columns are perhaps the biggest case of that, right? Um, I run into an issue a lot where I'm trying to select all of the columns, like the columns block, and not one of the blocks in the column, and I have to like align it just right. But it's nice to see that continual work is being done. I know that we get a lot of like, oh, it's gonna Gutenberg is being merged into Core like tomorrow, but it's not going to be until it's ready. I'm fully confident about that.
Yeah, and you did mention something there that we didn't see this time, which is any work on columns. Because I said started to talk to him about it. I'm like, they haven't mentioned anything new, and I haven't, we've already said everything about it, but they're still a little clunky. But yeah, we haven't seen anything on that. So hopefully some refinements there are coming. I'm sure they have their hands full. But yeah. There is
Yeah,
something I'm trying to pull up a link to that was really cool. They because we're just talking about the styles API. I need to find the link. It's easier sometimes to find the GitHub stuff, but I'll put it in there in a minute. But extending blocks, how to create different styles is there. So you can register a block style really easily and then have it look slightly different. So I'm going to, once I stop talking, find that link, because that's another cool thing. They have been releasing little documentation updates as we've gone along here too. So I want to throw that in.
Nice. I know something that I just noticed recently when I was doing the styling buttons video for our theming course was that they also released a new kind of UI element where you could change the buttons, right? That wasn't a function of whatever theme I was using or a plugin I was using, right? You can change it to like rounded or squared buttons now, which I thought was pretty neat. And they do kind of the same thing for um, there's a block switcher menu now, which looks pretty neat. So,
Yeah, they
yeah.
made another refinement on that block switcher because they went to just pure text and now back to an image and trying to make the different styles available to it. Yeah.
So, yeah, very cool. Lots of really cool stuff happening. And I think as we march closer to release, we're gonna start to see the dev team kick it in high gear with some cool new features. So,
And the design team.
yeah, and the design team, right? Sorry, I kind of lumped them all together. Um, so there is a question in the chat room regarding columns. Columns are still just split evenly. Has that changed? That has not changed as far as I know. I was trying to mess around with that just the other day. I didn't see anything in the release notes. So it would be nice to say, like, I want the first column to be 75% and the second column to be 25%. I think part of the reason, and Zach, you can chime in on this too, that we're not seeing that quite yet is because there's still discussion around how much default CSS the Gutenberg team wants to ship for the front end. Would you say that's accurate, Zach?
I mean, I think the precursor is it's not ready yet to begin with. So like we need to get it working with even. And then the other thing is that we have the styles API, so it wouldn't be hard to then have a different style of your column that could be ratioed differently, although maybe that wouldn't be the best option either. I also think that some folks, like, this is where someone like Visual Composer in the past who has their own page builder that's going to now work inside of Gutenberg. And I've been saying for a while, like if you want to build a columns block and release it now, it will, and all it has to do is be marginally better than WordPress's and keep getting better. You're gonna get some traffic there and probably fit some of these niche needs. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised down the road once columns is slick and intuitive and built that maybe they add another little feature in the sidebar that's like ratio wise, but that does get kind of complicated. And I don't know that it'll get to the point of drag and drop because that does raise some other issues. And like you said, how much CSS is being put out, but they do need to put out a certain amount. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It might be styles, might be down the road. I don't think anytime soon.
Yeah,
but it would be cool, right? But I think that's where plugins might beat them to it.
Right. And that's also and maybe this is a good segue. We've been hearing a lot about I didn't include this in the show notes, sorry to blindside you with the Zach. But I've been hearing a lot of talk about comparing, like Beaver Builder and Gutenberg, or comparing Elementor and Gutenberg, like which one should we use? And so I put out a video recently just kind of addressing the fact that Gutenberg isn't a page builder. Gutenberg is a way to create rich content. So I'll link to that in both the show notes and in the chat here. I have the video and then I have the transcript on my blog. Well, transcript-ish. I made it more readable than me just like freeform talking. But I kind of addressed that, and I'm really curious to hear what you think about that, Zach, because I'm sure you've been seeing the same things I've been seeing.
Sorry, I totally got distracted with one of these other links here. Catch me up on the last thing you just asked me. I was following the article or reference in general.
Oh yeah. Just the idea that people are comparing Gutenberg to a page builder, and kind of the video I put out addresses that, saying, it's not a page builder, or it at least shouldn't be compared to page builders.
Yeah, I think like you said, I would agree with that. They're improving the publishing experience in WordPress itself. These other things go far and above that. They let you edit things in ways that you cannot and Gutenberg will not until maybe we get into the customizer, right? So once Gutenberg gets to part 2, year from now, to,
Yeah.
whatever, it'll
Part
get there. But the page builders are a couple years ahead, so I don't think it makes sense to compare them. But it may be something where if Gutenberg doesn't give you quite enough, then you go to one of them. But slightly different things there, right? I think you made a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point too, right? Is that we might see Gutenberg in the customizer, but I would say like would you consider like Medium's editor a page builder? Like probably not. And that's what this is very akin to. This is not supposed to replace like Squarespace. This is supposed to make the editing experience closer to what we see in Medium, I think. Um
At first.
at first. Yeah, right. Maybe like you said, probably we'll see it permeate into other areas. I think that they could be used like not concurrently, but simultaneously on a website, right? You have landing pages you want to use a page builder with, and then you just want like fancier blog content that you would use Gutenberg with, right? I don't know a lot of people who use a page builder for their blog posts. So,
That's the thing too, right? Even for blog posts, I tend to not use a page builder, but I would probably maybe use Gutenberg. I don't know. I think so, right?
right, totally. I would totally use Gutenberg for a blog post. I mean, just like the fact that you can like the fact that I can do things myself marginally easier now in a blog post in Gutenberg, like drop a table in if I want, or like just drop a bunch of images onto a page and have like a nice looking gallery that I don't need a plugin or a shortcode for. Um, those like far and away make the Gutenberg editing experience totally worth it to me. Even if I never use columns, um, if I can make like slightly better looking blog posts without any HTML, great. I'm on board for Gutenberg. Cool. So let's
How's
see.
that settled?
Yeah.
Is
Now,
that
now,
settled for the whole internet, or are people still having problems with Gutenberg? Because I forget when I don't look at the news how folks are taking this.
yeah, that's right. Let's talk about that. We're about to get to. We need sound effects because we're about to get to some hot drama.
Yeah, what sound effect do we use for that?
Yeah, right. Maybe like a hot drama, and then like echoes or fire or something like that.
Yeah, I pictured a burning sound of some sort.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just exactly. So there's a few things. We'll ease our way into the hot drama by first talking about a story that was on WP Tavern, where Matt Mullenweg said the classic editor will be supported for many years to come.
I love it.
Um, yeah. So for anybody who's like super worried, I know that the last time I gave a talk about Gutenberg at a WordCamp, people asked like how long will the Gutenberg or will the classic editor be supported? I said probably 2 years. I think many years to come is more than two. So there, if you want to use the classic editor for the foreseeable future, it sounds like you will be able to do that. However, that's not good enough for some people. So I'll save maybe the most recent article I saw for last. But a couple weeks ago, both Zach and I saw the uh, a fork of WordPress where it's forking from 4.9.x. Um, what are your thoughts on that, Zach? Forking WordPress to keep Gutenberg out of WordPress.
Well, I guess the big and first thing is like it's tough to say without seeing what happens. Is there a significant portion of the community that wants this? And then is there enough support for it and enough trust in folks that would support it for you to go down that path, right? Because that's no small investment. We're like open source and we take for granted that WordPress will continue to be updated and patched. And so as it evolves and changes, that will become a bigger and bigger commitment and something to think about. So how much do you want WordPress to never have that core functionality, and how do you keep it out while they also do other things, versus a plugin that will be continued to be supported by the whole ecosystem of this is just disabled. For me, I have a hard time judging Gutenberg in under a 2 to 5 year window, because there's a big project planned and we haven't even seen it to the point where it's step one is complete, or at least that they're saying, okay, we're ready. So, but other people have other opinions, right? So, yeah, it's been very interesting. I don't know. What about you, man? I'm hesitant to say too much.
Yeah, well, I won't be hesitant. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not shy about my hard opinions, I guess. But I mean, you raised just a fantastic point from a practical sense, right? As far as I can tell, the main fork of WordPress to keep Gutenberg out is not something that was started by a bunch of core contributors, right? People who have provenly been dedicated to the cause. It was forked by I don't know. I don't know anything about the person who forked what's being called Classic Press, I guess.
It's a
But
good name, though. If you're going to do it, they picked a good
solid.
name.
Yeah,
Solid.
solid name, absolutely.
Not sure about the product.
Right, exactly. One of the things that makes WordPress so strong is its strong community of volunteers contributing to core and just contributing to the ecosystem.
And automatic.
And well, ooh, you okay there? You getting over a little cold?
Sorry, I had a little something stuck in my throat.
Little tingle.
Some water.
But you know, if this is just somebody saying like, "Hey, I want this," and every other people want it too, that's fine. That's the beauty of open source. But I wouldn't hitch my wagon to it, especially because, you know, there is the classic editor, and especially because, and maybe this will get into our next point, but security updates are backpatched, right, for like a long time. So even if I just wanted to stay on 4.9 for 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't have to worry about security and updates. But I think that honestly, the words that I've used is this just sounds like a big hissy fit. Specifically this one that I'm talking about. Someone's real mad about Gutenberg, and they were able to set up this site really quickly, and now they're like, everybody wants this. When in actuality, it's probably just a vocal minority that wants it. So those are strong words from me, I guess. But I don't know. I just think that if you're really dedicated to the WordPress community and the WordPress cause, I'm not fall in line. I'm absolutely not a fall in line person, but you can contribute in constructive ways that will make Gutenberg and WordPress better, and not just say I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
That said, that's how WordPress got here, sort of. so I just want to throw a caveat. I'll throw the soft ending at the end. We'll sandwich that in, right? It's good work. We could be so wrong, and Classic Press is going to be the hot thing for the next 10 years with no WYSIWYG editor and a big text field edit.
Yeah, maybe this episode doesn't age well, right? Like that's the problem with having hard opinions is
look for my course on Classic Press coming soon.
There you go. Perfect. So with that, maybe before we get into the actually, there are a couple of questions here, but I do want to talk about kind of the last section of this talk of like old WordPress, and that's a blog post that Morten Rand Hendrickson wrote called Gutenberg forks, Gutenberg, forks, and the need for an LTS version of WordPress, where LTS stands for long-term support. And basically what he proposes in this article, which we will link both in the description for this video and in the chat. I'll do that now.
few good questions we got to come back to there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What he's proposing is that in WordPress 5.0, site owners have the option of freezing their installation at 4.9.x. Um, so basically, you still upgrade to 5.0, but it looks like 4.9.x, which will only receive security and maintenance updates, and he says only for a specified number of years. So it it looks to me like what he's proposing is basically the same as not upgrading to 5.0. Zach, do you have a different read on that than I do?
So yeah, I'm so sorry. First of all, I love listening to Morton. I don't always like know that I might not agree with him at first because he's so eloquent and always just has opinions, and it's always fascinating to me. So first of all, thanks again for like bringing out these good things to think about, man. Um, that said, I didn't fully understand what this is doing, right? Because how and why is this different than installing Classic Press and continuing to update? Because it seems to me, if I understand, you wouldn't ever update to 5. You just keep getting security patches on your current version. But does WordPress have the infrastructure to not update to the latest version, but get like the smallest version for what you are? So like, I wonder technically what that does to the back end and then the UI experience behind that. And since you'd have to do work anyways, is it less work than installing the plugin? So that's what I wasn't like. Maybe I don't understand fully. It sounds like I think when we were talking about this, you're like, yeah, I think he's saying this happens anyways. They just want it to be an official policy with an option to do it a certain way, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
because
I'm a little unsure exactly
yeah,
what's going on here.
right. Because I mean, for those who are unfamiliar with what's called, I think it's called backpatching. Um, Basically, we move on to the next major version of WordPress, but security and maintenance updates are still patched for WordPress versions all the way back to 3.7. So like,
Is that like when the customizer came out? That was
yeah,
a minute
right.
ago. Yeah.
So if
Or
you
media library, I think. The media
yeah,
library.
yeah, right. So if you just like hated what like the customizer was in there, the new design was in there too, right? I don't know, if you just decided like 3.7 is where I want to be for like the next 10 years, I never want to see this change ever again. You can still be on it and still get security and maintenance updates.
But how do
uh,
you get them? Do you have to manually update now?
no, I think they're put. Well, so I don't know that, but they are pushed and you are notified, right? So that is uh that is the whole idea, right? Is that the core team is taking the time to backpatch older versions of WordPress and then pushing them through. Um, as a quick sidebar, Lisa Snyder, I we do have your question, I believe. Uh, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I
Uh,
brought it back up. I'll throw it
yeah,
in our channel here.
in the process of building a new site with the Gutenberg plugin and Gutenberg starter theme, uh, is I believe how your question starts. Just let us know if that is the case to make sure that we have it. Otherwise, post it in here again. Um, so just so the way backpatching works is basically this way. If you want to stay on 4.9.8 or 4.9.9, which is likely going to come out, and never get to 5.0, you will still get security and maintenance updates pushed, I think, automatically. Like I really think that if someone knows for a fact that that's not the case, let me know. Um, so what Morton is, I think, and I would love to get more clarification from him on this because Zach, as you said, he is very he puts things very well and is has very well thought out opinions. Um,
Eloquent is a good word for it.
Eloquent is a good word for it, right? Yeah. He and I both have strong opinions, but he definitely thinks about his a lot more before saying them. Um, so uh, I think what Morton's proposing here is that you let people press the button to go to 5.0, and then you let them say, well, I'm on 5.0, but I'm not really on 5.0. Wink, wink, wink. Um, so that they're kind of frozen, as he says, in 4.9 land. Um, yeah, I'm just not sure I see how this is different from just staying on 4.9. Uh, and then getting the back patched updates.
Yeah, so I guess for me, it really comes down to like, if this is an idea that folks want to consider and talk about, it needs to be something that could happen automatically, and then they would need to modify the UI so that you're choosing between the version and make it clear. I don't, again, I don't know if that's less work than just installing Classic. I mean, honestly, I still don't think it's a bad idea to ship with Classic Press and let people decide, but you know, that doesn't seem to be up for debate. And
Yeah.
speaking of up to debate, because we have a couple other questions here, maybe I could derail us for a second, although it kind of relates, because we could talk about this for a long time, and
Right.
I don't know
Right.
that either one of us really want to, because let's see where it goes. But WP Tavern did cover that some one-star reviews were being removed from the Gutenberg reviews. And so it is an interesting question of, what does this mean? Does everybody get this opportunity? Is this a good or bad thing? What about privacy? All of these other things. Interesting, right? Thoughts on that, buddy?
I think that if they are constructive 1-star reviews, um, they shouldn't be removed, right? It's just like if you give a 1-star review on Yelp because you watched the waiter spit in your food, right? But if you're just kind of rage reviewing and you say like this is a 1-star review because Gutenberg is stupid, that's not helpful feedback. That's, to use a term I used earlier, that's a hissy fit, right? Um, so I think I don't. This is kind of the first time I'm hearing about it, but if they are just reviews from people who are like, I'm mad, so I'm just gonna give it 1 star. That's not helpful. That's not helpful, and it's a inaccurate representation of the product.
But for the sake of, I don't know, debating this a little bit,
Yeah.
reviews don't need to be constructive. Reviews are a review of a product, right? And if you want to go off on that product, isn't what that platform is for. As long as you're not being, hate speech or like super inappropriate there, but then that stuff could be edited versus removing. And then what I really wonder is, well, what about all the other plugin developers who have really mean, hateful stuff in there? Do they get to review that and remove those as well? Because curious, right? That's the other question that raises for me.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you raise a good point, right? If reviews are really just kind of opinions,
Trying to find the article though. I'm not seeing it on Tavern. Is it still up there? Whoever suggests that, do you mind? Ken, you mind? Is it you who?
yeah, Ken Kramer, I think, is the one who brought it up. Maybe they removed it. Oh man, WordPress Illuminati. Uh, yeah. So I mean,
Unless
and
it's fake news.
fake news. Hashtag fake news. I'm I'm a senior staff member in the WordPress organization. Here's my anonymous article. Kim also brought up a really good point, right? Which is, I think, a continual problem in the WordPress community. Many times, plugin authors ask for reviews to be deleted, and they get a no, right? So, very, very good point. If this is indeed happening, right, then we're at another crossroads of certain projects automatically getting better treatment, like preferential treatment, versus the rest of the plugin community. Oh, and Kim's pointing out this was in a series of tweets. It wasn't necessarily on the Tavern.
Okay.
So I mean, those are very good points, right? Maybe you've changed my mind a little bit, but I do think that if we're seeing a bunch of negative feedback that, I don't know, unwarranted is such a nebulous term, but I kind of got into it with somebody on Twitter recently who just hated Gutenberg from the start, and just continually hates on it and says like they're not doing enough for this, and I think this, and I think this, and um, like if it's just somebody who hates to hate, uh, I I don't think that's a worthwhile review. I don't think it should be tabulated in the score because I don't think it really reflects, especially the progress that Gutenberg has made since January. But that said, I think Zach, you bring up good points. Kim brought up good points in the chat.
Little sketch. We'll see where it goes, y'all. But if somebody could post up those, okay, so it was on Twitter. Yeah. Do you want to have that for reference?
Yeah. You want to get to some questions?
Yeah, let's get to some questions, buddy.
Cool. Let's start with some stuff in the chat here, right? So Dan Stramer has a couple of questions or comments. So if we just go from like the bottom up, the guys behind Classic Press waited for the opportunity to fork WordPress, and Gutenberg gave them that last push. If you always wanted to have a say but felt your voice was never heard, and now is the time. So maybe that's a good point. Maybe they've been waiting for this for a while, and they thought that Gutenberg is the hot iron on which to strike. That's a very good point, because I know that people do feel like their voice is not heard within the community, especially when it comes to core. Like you have a few people who are at the top of contributing saying like, nope, nope, nope. But that's a good point. His question, what do you have to say about the Gutenberg Blocks ecosystem? Zach, I know you've talked about this a lot, so I'm going to let you take this question.
I mean, first of all, if you're not in it, you should be. Now's the chance. So there's a lot of opportunity here. I mean, we are seeing a few people putting out suites. There was that WP Tavern listing recently talk about a resource specifically for finding blocks in the WordPress ecosystem. I'll pull up that link in a minute. I'm not seeing it right at the top here. It must have been, oh, here we go. Yep. Searchable library. Tricky to say. I mean, I don't think it's there yet for better or for worse, but I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing more of it, to be honest, because if I was a WordPress teacher, I'd be doing courses on Gutenberg. Oh yeah, that's right. If I was a plugin developer or someone trying to hack it and get into WordPress, I would be getting on those. I do think it's going to be tricky though, because we'll see some folks at like right off the start be like, yeah, okay, here's my blocks in this library, but to really support that or monetize it, which is the harder thing, that's going to be tricky, because how do you monetize a single block?
Right.
Or how do you monetize a suite of blocks? And I know that WordPress has more blocks coming. So I'd be curious, first of all, for the folk asking, what blocks do you think are missing? And have you looked if there are them? That said, in the larger ecosystem, ACF, they're going to let you build blocks out of the box. Don't tell my Gutenberg development course that, but yeah, that's going to be pretty sweet right there. WooCommerce, all these other big ones are going to, the form plugins are all going to be converting over. So I think, I don't know. Yeah, my question again is, what are you missing? And I'd be surprised if there's not someone now trying to do that, or the same plugin developers are trying to advance their stuff. So that's my kind of take on it. I hope that answers it. I don't know that it really does. But
no, I think you raised a really good point. I just got all like starry-eyed because I was trying to find a talk from WordCamp Boston this year, but it looks like it's not up yet. John Ekman gave a fantastic talk. I caught the WordCamp Minneapolis version of it, about kind of creating blocks in the Gutenberg block ecosystem. And he talks about, Zach, to your point, saying like, how do you monetize one block or even a suite of blocks? He talks about how Gutenberg can give us the opportunity to fundamentally change content creation in WordPress from blobs to, oh man, I think it's like blobs to blocks or something like that. I'll have to find the exact wording, because it was a really good talk, and it talked about how Gutenberg can give you the opportunity to better architect information to make it like searchable and indexable and still have that ease of use that Gutenberg is offering. So, um, the example he gave is, let's say we have a custom post type for albums. Um, and so you can just like drop the album artwork and the artist and a rating and a description into the classic editor or into a Gutenberg block. But that doesn't make it easily searchable or easily indexable. As a matter of fact, maybe you have a short code and that's not indexable at all in the classic editor, right? Or maybe you make a Gutenberg block, but still, if you want to create a page with all of the albums by a certain artist, then you'd have to do a fairly in-depth and inefficient search. But if you create the custom post type and then can build it on the fly in a Gutenberg block and you still get the WYSIWYG experience and the block experience, blobs, chunks, and blocks. That's it. Anyway, if you can create that experience separately and indexably, I guess,
Good one.
yeah, right. Then it'll deeply improve WordPress for content editors and for people using the site. So blobs, chunks, and blocks. He talks about how the classic editor is essentially a blob. And if we don't play our cards right with Gutenberg, that could also end up being just a blob, but just a prettier blob. And what we really want is content chunks in the form of blocks. So that really, really long explanation is to the point that if you're looking to really capitalize on the Gutenberg block ecosystem, John's talk is really worth watching because it'll give you some really good ideas for how to create better blocks and not just ways to format content.
Yeah, I really like that, man. I think that Dan's asking a really good follow-up here, which is, well, expressing a concern about what about all the plugins, right? If every block that you want to do has its own plugin, yeah, that's an issue. At the same time, like, honestly, what happens if WordPress core adds 10 new blocks? Is it going to slow your site down? No. So having 10 block plugins, if all they're doing is adding a single block, it might seem like a lot of plugins, but it's not really in terms of underlying infrastructure, speed, performance, anything else. So that said, you don't want to have 50 different ones. And I think what you're talking about is going to be the solution. And folks that are just creating single one-off or creating a whole suite of things that are basically duplication of core or repetition or just slightly off might not be what folks are looking for versus an events block plugin that did a whole assortment of things and gave you flexibility to group things together in a way that made a ton of sense and offered style. So we might even see this new era of like plugin theme type thing, right? Where it's offering you something really rich around doing your content a certain way, like a call out block plugin, right? A bit more along the lines of what you're talking about. And I think that there's room for that. And honestly, if you had 3 to 5 of these installed because you needed it for your site versus hiring a dev to make them custom, and it saved on some other work, I don't know that that's too bad. I don't think that there are going to be too many sites where you have 20 block plugins, because how many sites do you really need 20 different formats of content that you can't find in another way? So hopefully it won't be too bad, he says, right?
Yeah, right. And to that point, right? I mean, look at all the plugins that create widgets right now. And I think that searching
Or short codes.
Yeah, or short codes, right? Like, and I think managing blocks is a lot easier than managing either one of those two because you do have this searchable interface. Heck, you don't even have to like really open up the block search interface. You could just press like / and it opens it up for you. So um I think that yeah, we're probably going to see a lot more blocks, but for websites that need it, I think it'll ultimately be a good thing. Big sites are going to be big no matter what, right? And if it makes the end user's life easier, then I'm all for it. Whew.
We want to scroll up. I think that was a good one, man. Thanks for the
Yeah,
discussion, y'all.
that was a good one. Lisa did submit one via our website that we should get to.
Yeah.
And that is I am in the process of building a new site with the Gutenberg plugin and the Gutenberg starter theme. Will you be addressing anything about the topic adding an image block? Specifically, resizing dimensions of the image while still maintaining responsive qualities via block settings. I feel like I might be missing a step in the process, which is causing a lack of responsiveness in the image. I see is resized. The class is resized is added.
So I'm not even going to let you finish. I'm interrupting. First of all, the thing that you have to remember about Gutenberg at this point, at least, is that it is not making your front end stuff responsive in the same way that it is in the back end. So just because, and I actually don't like this. I think that it should be injecting some CSS, but we'll see if that, I don't think that that's a set solution yet either way, but images and videos may not appear exactly on the front end of your site without some work, particularly videos, because there's no responsiveness to them. And depending on the theme that you have, like the Gutenberg starter theme, that is a good question. Now, the Gutenberg starter theme is open for pull requests, and I've actually tried to raise a few of those or issues on where I thought it should do things slightly different. And we have some time before that kind of matures and they have a new 2018, 2019 Gutenberg theme, whatever that is. So I would say head over to the Gutenberg starter theme and see if we can't affect core, at least we could say in that theme particularly, let's add some default ones. Because if everybody is going to want your, right, the goal of Gutenberg is to look the same on the front end as in the back end. So if Gutenberg is doing stuff on the back end that it isn't giving you on the front end, let's at least stick that in the starter theme. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think it should be a thing in core. There are some discussions. I think they've even started to, well, they do add front end styles. We are getting those, but I was surprised about that too. Really good question.
Yeah. There is a way to add the styles, right? The Gutenberg styles to the front end. That is a matter of adding theme support. I'll try to find that link, but it's also a lesson covered in our Gutenberg theming course.
Hey now.
Hey. And Zach's absolutely right. You know, the videos again in our course, there's a module on how to add fitvids.js to your theme to make videos responsive. Right now, the Gutenberg editor is kind of taking the same approach that the classic editor takes. It's applying classes for you to style, but it's making no assumptions about the theme that's being used. And I think we've talked about this previously on the show, but that is definitely a line that we have to walk a little bit more now, right? Because with the classic editor, great, I'm just like adding text on a page, I'm adding short codes, I'll style those the way they need to be styled. But Gutenberg makes it a little bit more what you see is what you get. And that will absolutely cause some confusion if what you see on the back end is not what you get on the front end. So at the moment, yeah, you're going to need to add some styles for responsive images. You're also probably going to, if you need a specific size image, you'll have to add image size to your theme for the particular size that you want your image to be. And I guess the rest is remains to be seen.
Good question though.
Yeah, that is a really good question.
I was surprised about that.
Yeah. So, do we have any more questions?
I think there might have been one more in the chat there. I want to open up my forms. You look through our chat. I had some student questions that weren't bad.
Let's see. Dustin Lear waved. Hi, Dustin Lear. I hope you're still here.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yeah. There was Ken Kramer's question about the columns, which we addressed. And then some hubbub about my comments about the shirt. About wearing your own shirt. Oh, Paul Phillips just asked a question. How long do you think it will take WordPress to do the next big release after Gutenberg? And what do you think that will deliver? Ooh, that's a very heady question, Paul. So after 5.0 comes out, what's next? I think what's next for Gutenberg is adding it to the customizer, probably. Yep. But that's going to be another 2-year long project.
It's already begun though.
Yeah, right. That's true. As far as like new features and new stuff that gets added, I think probably um if I were in charge of all of WordPress, once Gutenberg comes out, or maybe even simultaneously with Gutenberg development, I would focus very heavily on working with some theme designers to make sure that the themes that we're offering on WordPress.com and in the WordPress theme repository support Gutenberg. Because uh, the theme repository especially has a problem with um, there are some bad themes. But was that a oh, you're trying to
No,
make your
just trying
focus.
to
Okay.
focus camera here.
I thought you were trying to
There
get
we
my
go.
attention. Like, stop, Joe Secrets. Uh, the WordPress theme repository already has a bad rap for having a lot of really bad themes and just like a few really good ones. But I think when 5.0 comes out, if there's not a significant amount of themes out there that support Gutenberg, um, we'll see that problem get compounded because I'm sure as many of you have seen at this point, like if you just like turn Gutenberg on and make a Gutenberg page with like the cover image and columns, if they're not supported, it looks pretty bad. Um, so that's what I think is coming down the pike. But Zach, you said that they're already working on customizer support, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's been roadmapped already, right? Like step one is the editor, step two is the customizer. So we'll see things like blocks going into widgets, which again is already being worked on. So those two can eventually become unanimous. Widgets can be in blocks, blocks can be in widgets. It's all kind of one big happy family. So that'll happen, and the customizer will let you arrange these things outside of just your content area. So we've got Gutenberg for the editor, and then a customizer full page builder so that you could put blocks in your header area or in the sidebar and then change it. I'm guessing based on permissions on pages and things. We'll see how that evolves, but that's the next step. And then eventually there's a connection there with, like you said, themes. How integrated are themes? And like if your theme is set up to work one way, you get auto live previews in the customizer and it's a little smoother experience right now. And if you don't have that, it'll just refresh the page each time and kind of trick it. But there are ways to make your theme much more easy to customize right now, even installing default content. So I think that that's where we will see the evolution of it.
Nice. I like that. I would just love if I could like resize the footer widget area, right? Because it's either like you have like four. I mean, some themes do this smartly, but some don't. So it's like if you have four widget areas and you're only using like two, I want them to automatically resize. Or even better, I want to be able to say like widget area one is 70%, kind of like the columns thing. So, um, that'll be really cool. Ultimately, I mean, uh, somebody tweeted, I think it was Cliff Griffin or maybe Brian Richards. No, it was Cliff Griffin tweeted like in 2 years we're gonna look back on all this hot Gutenberg drama and like wonder what was our problem. Or like I'm just paraphrasing, but like this is all gonna be like in the past. Like oh, of course this was good for the project. Um, Change is hard, and it's causing some headaches now. But ultimately, I think Gutenberg will be very good for the WordPress project, which is why I've been, not all in on it, but I've definitely been all in on promoting it and the courses and stuff like that. And I'm sure Zach, you feel the same way.
Newton, what?
Huh? What's
Eh.
that?
Um, hey, before we end up, I think we've been going for a little while here. I do want to throw out again stuff coming with documentation. So they have been extending the documentation. Unfortunately, some of it is still like very developery. It's not actually written documentation. It's just pulling from notes in the code. So I want to throw this in data API docs. A little sketchy now, but basically the biggest change for a developer is if you want to get access to anything now in WordPress, there's a Redux kind of data store. So if you're in a block and you want to say, okay, what are the current categories, or what is the other metadata about this post, or what's the title, or give me a list of 3 other posts, and how do I do that? There is a whole method depending on what you want to get for that. So not super well documented. Again, this is something I want to do in an advanced course, but if you already know a little bit and have been playing around, at least now we have some documentation with, it's still not enough docs to get, there's no demos, but hopefully that can change soon. Maybe at a upcoming WordCamp, or if somebody wants to help and edit that, that would be super cool.
Nice, very nice. The other thing that we haven't talked about because we got caught up in the hot drama, we didn't talk about Give. We mentioned them at the top of the
No, come
show.
on. They're making all this possible.
They
They're
are.
making
So
all this possible. Let's
so
give it up for him, man. Take it
give it
away, buddy.
give it up for Give, right? Give, if you don't know, is a free donation plugin for WordPress. You could see it in action over at sorry, I almost plugged my own there. You can I'm using it on my site. You could see it over at gutenberg.courses/ask us. We have a little donation form if you like what we're doing here. And we're using it completely free thanks to Give. They make it so that you just integrate PayPal and people can make donations. You could set up crowdfunding campaigns. There's tons of add-ons so you can use like Stripe and things like that. I know generally we've been highlighting some of the really good premium add-ons, and today I want to highlight PDF receipts. Not because this is not something that I personally have been like, I wish I had a PDF receipt. If you're a nonprofit organization though, or you're donating to a nonprofit organization, probably something you want or you want to be able to do. I'm pointing this one out because as a developer, generating PDFs on a server on the fly is very hard to do. So it's impressive that they've been able to do this in something that's not a controlled environment, right? Somebody can be using a host like Liquid Web or a WP Engine, or they could be using something like Bluehost or GoDaddy, and those are on two different ends of the spectrum with different resources available to them, and their plugin works. PDF receipts. So I'm just this is super useful, but also a testament to how good the Give development team is. So,
All right, let me get in on this soapbox, buddy. Let me inch you off here. Make some room, man, because I will also say that that is a great add. Oh, don't go away. Don't go away.
I'm here.
This is a great add-on because I've had to buy this plugin for WooCommerce and my own products, and at some point, a business is going to require that. And if you could just have that easy to get, folks, then it's going to save you that time automatically off the top. I also want to plug one of their other add-ons, Tributes. So if you are doing donations, another thing that's really nice is to say doing this in honor of somebody else, and then that can be sent out. And they have this really cool plugin that lets you send e-cards and you can do a custom message with a picture, and they even have the ability to make these mailable. So it's pretty extendable and really cool what this will do. And it's called Tributes, a really cool add-on. Yeah, Give does so much. And there was another thing that they tweeted out, a few things from their news lately. One is that yesterday was International Charity Day. So I think as of we're recording, was very cool. And they also posted something that said 1 out of 3 millennials donates to charity and donates to these causes. So if you're trying to expand your offerings, maybe you do sell something, but you have an opportunity to have kind of it doesn't even have to be an official not-for-profit. It could be a donation towards something. I'm trying to think of how I could accept donations to give away more of my content. And someone might not buy one of my courses, but they might want to help somebody else out and do that. So Give is a great way to do that. And as always, they're helping support us, and they're always up on the news and events for what's coming with Gutenberg. A good example of a plugin company who has been on top of it from day one, not just being all pro Gutenberg, but talking about the pros and cons, getting everybody's voice out there. But bottom line, getting their plugin ready, right? So let's give it up for Give.
Yeah. Woo! Awesome. Yeah. So thanks again to Give for their continued support of the Gutenberg Live Show. And I think that's a wrap. I don't have anything else. Do you?
There haven't been any updates pushed since we started, have there?
No. Shockingly, there hasn't. So if you want to get all of the links that we talked about, you can head over to gutenberg.courses/ask us, or they are in the notes for this video if you're watching it on YouTube. So if you're not watching it on YouTube, click that little YouTube button in your player, and you can get all of the notes there. If you want to ask any questions, go to gutenberg.courses/ask us and submit them, and we will be sure to answer them. So,
heck yes, we will.
Cool. Until next time, I'm going to say what's on my shirt. Hopefully, Zach will say what's on his. Get out there and build something.
Mine just says deeply.
Cool. Well, let's get out there and build something deeply.
Whatever you
Thanks.
do. Yep.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.